Welcome everybody to First Forward. What a great season. So, welcome to the all hands meeting. This is September 20th. We will be discussing the FTC season for 2021-2022, and our goal for this year, obviously freight frenzy, but also to provide the best experience while keeping everybody safe. For those of you that don't know me, I am Rebecca Whitaker, the program delivery partner for First Tech Challenge in the state of Iowa. We serve Iowa and Nebraska, and my email is listed on that slide for those of you who don't know how to get a hold of me. So what we're going to go over today, we do have some housekeeping and updates that I'd like to share with you. We will talk about the challenges of this season, the key challenges, what we know, what we don't know. We'll talk about the formats of competitions, and also I'll go over an appendix as to how dates are determined. If you have, so housekeeping and updates, actually, this meeting is being recorded, as I mentioned earlier, and the recording will be posted on YouTube probably by tomorrow at noon. And the slide deck is currently posted on the FTC Iowa page, which is listed there in that URL. Questions, you can submit questions by clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom. I have Jeff Margret, who is monitoring the questions, and they will all be answered at the end. So feel free to submit them at any time during the webinar. We will just take a few minutes at the end to kind of go over them. So updates, first of all, most importantly, congratulations to Jeff Margret, who was our first senior mentor for the state of Iowa. He has actually been appointed to the Iowa Regional Director for FRC. So let's give a huge congrats to Jeff, who is behind the scenes. Thank you and congrats, Jeff. We are currently looking for an Iowa First Senior Mentor. And if you know of anybody, or if you are interested yourself in being the Iowa First Senior Mentor, which would work with all of the programs, send your name and maybe an application to Jeff, and his email is listed there. So congrats to Jeff. So some really quick updates regarding Rev. I know that they were on a back order with driver hubs as of a week ago. They were having a supply issue, as we all know. Chain of supply for many items is being backlogged because of various reasons. But my understanding is that they have sent out all of the back order driver hubs that last week. So all items have shipped thus far, and Andy Mark is also having a similar issue, but I think not as bad as the Rev for driver hubs. So thank you so much for your patience when it comes to the driver hubs, and you should have received them. So the challenges of the season, what we know and what we don't know. So the elephant in the room, the pandemic. Right? This is an obvious challenge, and more information as to how it's going to affect our season will be coming up in a little bit. But I do want to share with you the statement that First put out last Friday. We're going to go ahead and read it. So First believes that the best path forward to ending the COVID-19 pandemic and having a successful season is through vaccination. We strongly recommend everyone who is eligible and has access to a vaccine to consult their physician and get vaccinated against COVID-19 as soon as possible. We really encourage everybody to vax up, mask up. So please encourage your students to do so if possible. Challenge number 2, team registrations are down as of this morning. So down for this point of the season. Many teams are waiting for grants, and I know some grants are taking a little bit longer this year than they have in the past. But as of today, team registrations were at 107 teams that, like I said, we serve Iowa and Eastern Nebraska. 107 teams at this point, so this is basically the Monday after kickoff, is 43 teams lower than we had in 2019-20 season, and 57 teams lower than what we had in the 2018-2019 season. The chart on the display here, you can kind of see we plot out all of the team registrations on a trend curve, and the blue line is kickoff day, and you can see that we have not basically we are not where we were in the past. I do foresee that our number will be rising. We just don't know how long it will take to rise. So if you have any teams that are out there that need to register, please encourage them to do so. One quick item, team registrations, they really determine several things. They determine the number of leagues that we have in Iowa. They determine the boundaries and the size of the leagues. Obviously, if we have more teams, teams won't have to travel to get into a league or to share meets within their league. The number of teams determine how many league tournaments that we have and that we host. The number of teams dictate if we have super qualifiers this year. And also the number of teams determine the size of the Iowa Championship. So with 107 teams, more than likely, we will not be having a 48 team tournament. So please, if you are still on the fence about registering, please do so. So that way we can have a traditional 48 team tournament. So we need to get back up to the 2019-2020 season numbers. So the reason why we have not really announced the locations of the tournaments yet is because we just don't know how many teams. Challenge number 3 is our volunteers, right? So we cannot have events without volunteers, and we really don't know the comfortableness of our volunteers. Are they okay with having in-person events? So please help us recruit volunteers. We're going to need volunteers in all corners of Iowa. Please reach out to anybody that you may know, including former students, because they make excellent volunteers. So help us recruit. That will be awesome. What we know. So these are things for sure that we know. We know that Dean's List interviews will all be remote. There will be one nomination deadline for all of Iowa teams, and interviews will take place January 18th to the 20th from 4 to 6 p.m. via Zoom. The deadline to nominate somebody for the Dean's List will be December 15th, 2021. And then, like I said, interviews will take place January 18th, 19th, and 20th from 4 to 6 p.m. via Zoom. We also know that the Iowa Championship will be an in-person event. That will be February 18th and 19th of 2022. It will take place at the Extreme Arena in Coralville. It's a gorgeous facility, brand new. It's actually just up the street from the Coralville Marriott, which we've had the Iowa Championship in the past. It's on East 9th Street, so the same street. And we are working to get hotel blocks reserved. So no need to reserve hotels quite yet, but we will have hotel blocks reserved quickly, soon. What we don't know. Like I said, we don't know the number of teams who will be registered for the season. We also don't know the number of teams who want to compete in a traditional FTC season, so in person. We also don't know the number of teams who want to compete remotely. And I know there are a few out there who do want to compete remotely. We also don't know if there's going to be, if we're going to be able to have spectators at events, and that will really determine, will be determined by the pandemic. We don't know the size of the events, and we don't know the status of the pandemic. So there's still a lot of things up in the air, but we're doing the best we can to get the season off to a great start. So formats of the competition that we're going to be offering this year. We're going to offer teams an option to select one of 2 formats for competitions. Teams can select either a remote season or a traditional season. This chart or graph, chart, well, basically explains what the difference is between a traditional format and a remote format. So when it comes to inspections in the traditional format, they are done in person by volunteers. In the remote format, inspections are done at home, completed by the coaches or mentors. Matches for the traditional format are 4-team alliances, and they're in person. Matches for remote format are 1-team matches. The judging for traditional is in person. The judging for remote format is via Zoom. The pits will be in person. The pits for a remote format will be remote. Alliance selection for the traditional format will occur. Alliance selection for the remote format will not occur. So just like what we did last year. The ceremonies, so closing ceremonies, award ceremonies for traditional format, they will be in person, maybe with a few modifications. For the remote format, it'll be remote like what we had last year. So those are the two tracks or two formats of competitions that we are allowing teams to select from. So the fine print. If your team decides to do the traditional format, once again, we are encouraging everybody to mask up and backs up. Your team will need to become familiar with Game Manual Part 1 and 2 traditional. Both of those are available on the First Inspires website. If there is a public health emergency declared, we may need to transition in-person events to remote events. And that will be something that we'll have to take in consideration. We are all very resilient, and if it has to be a short notice, it has to be a short notice, but we want to make sure everybody is safe. Keep in mind also for spectators at a traditional event, it may be limited depending on the transmission rate of the county in which the event is hosted. So if there is a huge outbreak at a particular site, we may have to say no spectators are allowed. And that will be determined by the host as well as my office and go from there. So please prepare your students, your mentors, your sponsors, and of course your parents. I know everybody wants to see their students robot work, but we want to make sure everybody is safe as well. So please be prepared to maybe have limited spectators. The fine print for the remote format, Game Manual Part 1 and 2 remote is available on the First Inspires website. All remote teams will be in the same remote league. So if your team decides to do the remote, we will need a minimum of 8 teams to form that league. All league meets will be remote, just like we had last year. The remote league tournament will occur on December 18th, 2021. So it will be a little bit earlier than the traditional in-person events. In advancement, so teams who advance from the remote league tournament will have the option of competing at the in-person Super Qualifier or Iowa Championship. Now, the reason why I say or is because we don't know if we're going to offer Super Qualifiers based on the number of teams that we have. If a team who decides to do the remote format is not comfortable with in-person tournaments, their season will conclude after their league tournament. They will still get the opportunity to earn the Inspire Award and all the awards associated with the tournament, but if they decide to decline that invitation because they're not comfortable with in-person activities, that's fine. We'll just go down the advancement criteria and invite the next team. So more information. So now that you know the two different formats that we are going to be running this season, teams will need to select which format by October 1st. And that is a week from Friday. A form will be distributed this afternoon, probably I think at 5:30 is what time I have the email scheduled to go out. We need 1 submission per team. And please make sure that your 2 coaches, it will probably go out to both coaches, but please make sure only 1 per team. Once your team submits or indicates what their preference is, you will not be able to change it. So like I said, it opens tonight, September 20th, and it will close October 1st as well. Like I said, they won't be able to change the format mid-season. For teams who select the traditional or in-person format, leagues will be determined after October 1st. We need to know which teams want to do in person. So we can't really determine the leagues until we know that information. And then coaches will be able to communicate and determine dates and locations of league meets at that point. So I get a lot of questions as to how are the dates determined regarding events in Iowa. So as I mentioned earlier, the Iowa Championship will be an in-person event, and it's February 18th and 19th at the Extreme Arena in Coralville. So now that we have that date and a location and all that stuff, we work backwards to determine the tournament schedule. So here is the February 2022 calendar with the February 18th and 19th. If we work backwards, the week prior will be the Super Qualifier, and then February 5th will also be a Super Qualifier. We do realize that there is a short time between a Super Qualifier and the 12th and the 19th, but as you see the calendar, the next month's calendars, you'll understand why. So that's February. January, We have 4 weekends of league tournaments. So that's the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and 29th. For some reason, people don't want to do a league tournament on New Year's Day, and New Year's Day does fall on a Saturday. And so we keep that with no events. Unfortunately, we do not have enough resources to do 2 traditional events and 1 remote event in the same day. So our max capacity is 2 events, 2 league tournaments. Right now, according to the schedule, we can build in to have 8 league tournaments as well as 4 super qualifiers if we get those team numbers. Also, January 22, like I mentioned, Dean's List interviews will take place January 18th, 19th, and 20th. So mark the calendar for that. So if we continue to work backwards in December, Christmas also falls on a Saturday. As I indicated before, if your team selects the remote league tournament format, that championship will be on December 18th. Your window for matches will be December 12th through the 18th. And then the ceremony for the remote league tournament will be on December 19th. The driver coaches meeting for the remote league tournament will be on December 9th. And then for all teams, like I said, the deadline for Dean's List nominations will be December 15th. I actually went through that really fast. Jeff, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Do we have any questions?
Yep. I lost my full view here for a moment. Here we go. Yes, we have one question so far, and it's just, is the volunteer registration open for Iowa FTC?
Not quite yet, but it will be opened shortly, probably before October 1st. Yes, absolutely. I will be putting those events. So I could not submit events until after kickoff, which occurred on Saturday. I'll be putting those events in the first dashboard probably this week.
Okay, I've got another one here. Actually, they're all flooding in now. You want me to just go right down them?
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, will there be an Iowa registration as well?
Yes, there is an Iowa registration fee or process and fee. Once a team registers with Iowa, they are sent a link to, I'm sorry, once a team registers with First, they are sent a link to register with Iowa. And that fee is $235 as it covers the costs that we incur to host events, such as ordering trophies and ordering the field sets, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. If we don't have super qualifiers, will the league tournaments be pushed back?
League tournaments as in the, or pushed back as into February. More than likely not. It would really just kind of depend on the availability of venues. So I don't necessarily want to reach out to venues and ask them to reschedule their events, knowing that it is also high school basketball season. So we do have several venues that are kind of locked in for league tournaments.
Next question, will the calendar be shared?
Absolutely. Yep. So this slide deck will be available, or actually is available on our webpage right now. And so you'll be able to see it as well. And it will be linked on the email that's sent out later this evening.
Okay, here's a challenging one, but one I know a lot of people are thinking about. If district changes ability to participate in person, do we just forfeit?
I think we're going to have to do this as a case-by-case basis, knowing that districts across the state have different criteria that they follow, especially if they submitted their return to learn plans from last summer. We're going to have to kind of work through that on a case-by-case basis. If the district says no students can travel, then they might have to transition to a remote format, as that would be something beyond their control. But yeah, case by case.
Okay. Is there just a single remote league tournament?
Yes, there will be only one remote league tournament.
Will there be scrimmages this year?
I think if the leagues want to host scrimmages, they are certainly more than welcome to. And they will be, like I said, leagues will be announced after the October 1 deadline. what ends up happening is we gather the teams who want to compete in person, and then we put them into an algorithm. We just it kicks out the league boundaries, and then the coaches within the league will be able to determine whether or not they want scrimmages. So I certainly encourage leagues to do scrimmages, but it really kind of depends on venue availability and which teams want to participate in scrimmages.
Is the competition schedule available online?
Yeah, like I said, I have not entered the events yet into the first database because I could not do it until after Saturday's kickoff, and that is on my list of things to do this week.
Okay. I know the answer to this next one. Will Nebraska be part of the Iowa Championship?
Yep. So we still support Eastern Nebraska teams. So from basically Kearney, Nebraska East, we welcome them into our umbrella.
Okay. Here's one new coach here. What is the difference between a league meet and a super qualifier?
Excellent question. Yep. So a league meet is typically about 4 to 6 hours in length, and teams go through inspections, a driver's meeting, and matches, and then they depart. A super qualifier, as well as a league tournament, kind of takes the same format. Teams arrive, we do inspections, we do an opening ceremony, a driver coaches meeting, there's judging available. We do qualification matches, alliance selection, and then ceremonies. So Jennifer, excellent question. I would actually recommend everybody to read Game Manual Part 1, and it kind of goes through the differences. But simply, a league meet is shorter. Teams run matches and they go home. The tournaments are longer.
Okay. What if LT gets bad weather league tournament? It's bad weather as they are all in January. And we face this every year.
We do face it, yeah, everywhere. But I have talked to Mother Nature, and she said that the January of 2022 and February 22 is going to be perfect. So
cool.
just
nice.
We have it every year. We try our best to reschedule. I know 2 years ago we had to reschedule an event on a Sunday, and that really obviously dependent on the host. If the host school district says cancel all events, we do our best to work around that. We will do our best to get the league tournaments in January. If they flooded over to February, that is something that I guess we're going to have to deal with at that time. But we have done a very good job, knock on wood, cross your fingers, whatever, to get all the league tournaments in January.
And we've done some creative things. There's been some moves to a Monday one time. There's been, I know we do it. We don't do it where if it hurts teams, we don't. But when teams are all on board, we've done some creative things.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm sorry. How many meets are required? Or no, actually, I skipped one. Let me get back. I'll get to that one in just a second. If there is no super qualifier, how many teams advance to the Iowa Championship?
That question is really, we don't know yet, because we don't know how many teams will be registered with first, and that really dictates the size of the Iowa Championship. So currently with 107 teams, like I said, there's no reason for us to have a 48-team tournament. That would basically mean 1 out of almost every 2 teams would go on to the Iowa Championship. We won't know that until probably November-ish, when a majority of the teams have registered with first. I'm hoping October, but no later than November.
Okay. Next question. How many meets are required for teams to compete for traditional meets?
So as in the previous in-person season, teams have an option of participating in 3 to 5 meets. So no fewer than 3 meets, no more than 5 meets.
Okay. Will the leagues be set in stone, or will there be gerrymandering?
Once leagues are determined and sent out, there will be no gerrymandering.
There will be no gerrymandering. Okay. Will there be mega leagues again like last year, or are we going back to sister leagues as in previous years?
Yep. So the goal is to have a league of around 24 teams. So it'll be kind of like a mega league like we've done in the past. the feedback that was received regarding the mega leagues was that teams are able to meet other teams and see more of a variety of teams and work with a variety of teams. So, and they have more options for league meets as well. So that's the goal, is to have about 24 team size mega leagues.
Okay. Just already answered that one. Well, final one so far. What is the earliest date the in-person league meets could begin?
I actually have to reach out to First about that. No, obviously October 1 would be super, super early. I know in the past, October 15th was kind of the first date for a league meet. I don't know if they have pushed that back. So I don't know yet. I would say certainly by November 1, but I will let the league admins know. Once the leagues have been announced, we will select league admins, and then they will know kind of what the earliest date is.
And if the FTC kickoff was a week later than usual this year,
It was.
because of the 9/11, avoiding 9/11 as a start date. So that could have an effect on it as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. That's all I have for questions right now. If anybody wants to add another one quickly, if not, back to you, Rebecca.
I do see somebody is raising their hand in the chat. So I'm going to see Tiffany. Nope. Okay, they lowered their hand. Yep. So this session is, or this webinar is being recorded, and it will be put onto YouTube. So please take a look at that. Please note that you will have from basically today to October 1st to tell us what format you want to compete in, whether it be the remote or the traditional format. So I know there are some teams who are not comfortable yet with competing in person, and that's quite fine too. So.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. Thank you all very much for coming. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I will be on for a little bit longer in case you have any questions. So.